Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson I'm answering some Q&As, and in the particular Q for this one is what is modeling paste? Think of modeling paste as plaster of Paris for art. It's flexible. You can get it in white, you can get it clear, you can get it black. You can stamp in it, you can scrape it over through a stencil, you can apply it with a palette knife. You can do a lot with it. I like using it when I paint texture. Let's say a tree or rock. I will actually apply this, and and then you can paint on top of it, and it's quite nice. I'm going to show a little bit of a demonstration, basically the stenciling part, because you can really with modeling paste. You have to explore it to see, you do something, then you'll try to replicate it again, and something will be different, and you'll get a completely different effect. So I did some prep work already. I've got some on the side that are drying. What I did first, so I can get stuff out of the way, I applied a layer of gesso on paper. I used the DecoArt chalky gesso for this. With modeling paste, you need to apply it onto a prepared surface, whether there's paint or gesso. Because it's so thick, if you put it onto, let's say, just paper, what's going to happen is that the moisture in the modeling paste is going to get sucked into the paper. It's not going to dry and cure properly. So with the gesso on here, it creates that barrier layer, so the modeling paste will actually dry properly. Okay, so that's the one thing. It's quite thick. There's, depending on which brand you go with, it's quite thick. There's some of them are tinted. I kind of like tinting it myself. Now, the one thing with the DecoArt media, they do have a clear, and they have a white, and they also have a black. The black one I ended up drying out. I actually didn't close it properly, but I'm going to show you how to tint your own colors. And then the traditions, there's the white as well. I don't know if they have a black. So let's do a little test here. So I've got some colors from another project. I'll use some of these. I'm going to call them out, and I'll use some of them for the demonstration. I've got the Traditions, Phthalo Green Yellow, Phthalo Green Blue, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Permanent Alizarin Crimson, Hansa Yellow Light, and Yellow Oxide. I also have a little stencil here, an Andy Skinner stencil. It's called Bubbles. Love this stencil. So first thing I want to show, and I can do on regular paper. I want to save the gesso one for the other demo. Let's take white modeling paste, and just to show you, in the basic form, you take it on through a stencil and you can apply it that way. And that's pretty straightforward. Anybody can do that. You can apply it quite thinly or quite thickly. So I'm going to do both, and I have one that's already done. Okay, and then you lift it off. You have to lift it straight up, and then what you end up with, so the thick, you can see how that is, and then the thin. There you go, you should be able to see that. So that's a basic way. Then what I like doing is just to scrape until there's nothing left. So this one here, it's like almost like a street art technique, where it gets quite grungy and it's quite thin, but the shapes are irregular. Like there's some with very little texture paste. I'm trying to find a glare so you can see there. Very little. See how there's some scraped off there? So there's that way. So we got thick, thin, and then irregular. With this stuff though, you got to make sure you clean your stencil, because it is quite thick and you don't want it drying on the stencil. So that's that. And I'll show you the other one after. Okay, so that's it. Now tinting it. So let's go with, I didn't show the clear. Let me do a clear. I don't know if this will be dry in time though. It's more of a cream. It's not thick like the other one. Now these ones here have white pigment added to them. So let me do one really thick. Like I said, I don't think it'll be drying time. Lift that up. And let's wipe that. Yeah, so the white ones have a white pigment added to it, and that's where it leads me to my next thing, is that you don't have to buy it tinted already. Like, other than the white, which is a pretty standard, you don't have to buy it tinted with all these different colors. You can tint it yourself. Now, DecoArt, I believe, only has the black. They don't have a bunch of different colors. It's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. So you can take, let's use, might as well use this one. So the DecoArt the white one is very similar to the regular one here. There's just different. This one seems a little bit whiter. It has a bit of cream color to it. And if you ever have it where it dries out, just add a bit of distilled water to it. Don't let it dry out completely though, because it'll get hard. Let's use blue. So I'm taking ultramarine blue because ultramarine blue is a transparent pigment. So you can see how well that goes. So there's white already in here in this modeling paste. So you don't have to add white to it again. Let's do this here. Quite thickly I'm applying it. And the thicker you apply it, the longer it'll take to dry. Keep that in mind. That's super thick. Look at that. That is really thick. When you're applying the modeling paste, make sure you allow yourself plenty of drying time. And when I say drying time, we're talking in hours, not in minutes. Piece of paper. Now, all these demos that I'm doing here, I wonder how that's going to work. I can use these for artist trading cards. This is why this is a great way to use up excess paint. Just mix it with a little bit of modeling paste and cut it up for trading cards as your backgrounds. So let me put that over here. Let me clean this up a bit. So I put out some more modeling paste. I used the DecoArt one, and you can create mixes as well. So if you have an idea of what you're looking for, create little pieces of modeling paste puddles and then add your colors in there before mixing. Because if you do your color mixes directly in one and it doesn't work out, you're going to end up adding so much paint to it, and then it'll eventually not become modeling paste anymore. It'll just become like a gel. So let's add this one here. And this one I add a lot of phthalo blue to it because I want to show you something. So this is really like that's thick. That is really thick. And then I'll just pick up a little bit of green. Let's go right in with a dirty palette knife. Again, very thick. And let's go with the yellow oxide. So we got that there, and yeah, we can take a little bit of the pieces now, and we can do a little bit of color mixing, and you basically from this you're mixing it just like regular paint, and you can actually paint an area. And you see I didn't over mix it in there. And this takes a bit of practice. You have to really know your applicator tools and the feel and what they can kind of do. I like these little plastic ones because they're flexible. Then from there I can turn around and, oh, I should have made a brown. I should have made a brown. Let's do this. So I've got that. It's going to dry. Now let's say I want to create something. Oh, I don't know. Let's say there was water. And this is like, you saw how thick that was, right? Well, what I can do is I can turn around and turn around and take, let's say, my fluid acrylics, which is much thinner, and add just a few drops in there. So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to be lightening my mixture, and I'm going to be making it a bit thinner in consistency. So that's getting a little bit better. You just don't want to add so much to it. Just do it in small doses. I think we're almost there. So now we're mixing it with the palette knife. I want to get a consistent feel to that. A little bit more, still quite thick. There we go. Oh, nice. And if my modeling paste was much thinner, I could just add the modeling paste to, with the white modeling paste to this, but my modeling paste is already thick. So then from here, you can come in and you can, create your base. So let's say if you wanted to work with water, then come in with a bit more of a different blue. Let's say I'm going to use ultramarine blue. Come in here. I'm not going to over mix. Come in with a little bit of a darker blue. Not quite dark enough. I'm going to hit with a little bit of phthalo blue. And once you put it on there, you don't want to muck with it, because you're going to just blend it. You're just going to blend it in. Okay. From there, this is where now if you wanted to work with something, for it was clear, you could take some of the clear and go around to create those translucent areas of texture. So that's how you could paint with modeling paste. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, move that over there, and let me grab the one that's got the gesso on it. Just to show you the difference. Let's make sure that's dry. We'll just use that. And let's use the yellow. So with the yellow being so thick, you run the risk of the modeling paste getting underneath. But then I can just take the thin one. It's just like butter, see? Just like butter. Let's take some crimson into that green here. Go right on top. It's easier putting thin modeling paste over thick modeling paste. And then if we take a bit more of that blue, go right on top again. Now we're just overlapping. And do this carefully because you're going to get mud, but it's almost like a grunge. And the stencil may not be the appropriate stencil for this, but it's just to show you the layering. Okay, see how you've got... I want to use really contrasting colors so you could see. So you've got some layers over that. This was, it ended up turning a bit more green, but you can layer your modeling paste as well. Okay, now once you've done what you need to do, you want to clean all the stuff off your stencil. Don't let the stuff sit in your stencil. I'm just going to scrape the rest off. Like I said, I can use this for artist trading cards. Now I'm going to show you that because I just did a big faux pas. I went in with the palette knife, and the palette knife went under the stencil, and I got a big blob right there. So don't do that. Now hopefully the other stuff is dry. not quite. So these are ones that I did before. So super thick. Okay. Thinner. You see just from the values. Trying to find that glare again. There we go. Super thick, thin. And then I tinted some, the thin, I tinted some with alizarin crimson. Look how beautiful that is. But you can see there's some areas where it's thick and thin. And then to clean my stencil, I clean my stencil off on another piece of paper. And then I can cut these, and you can feel it, and cut these and use them for, you know, like an artist trading card. Ones that are white like this, and this is not too bad. I'll try it and see how it's going to work. You can then take that and you can paint it. Or, I don't have a small brush. Excuse me. I took a baby brush. You could take a baby brush and you can embellish some of the areas. I'm not going to press too hard because it's not quite dry. And with whatever technique you like. And when I'm putting the stencil on with the palette knife and going different directions, I get these, the ridges, like this one here. See that ridge? When you apply the, you know, whether it's a paint or a wax on top of this, it's going to enhance those ridges. And I think it's a pretty neat effect. And if it's plain, if there's nothing to it, you're just going to grab the top. Now this is thin, so it's got to be careful because it is pretty thin. The very thick stuff, it'll come off, you know, pick up really easy. So you're just really just letting the modeling paste grab the edge of the brush. And the gold, I think, is a little bit hard to see. But you can do this for as much as you want. For as much as you want. That didn't sound very good. You can do this as much as you want. You could also take some of this into the clear and stencil that. So modeling paste, again, is just a way to add texture through your piece. And I mean, I've seen people DIY it themselves. If you're going to DIY it, make sure you test it for flexibility, because art needs to be, you know, flexible, especially if it's going to be like in a journal or mixed media piece. On a canvas may not be so important, but, you know, if you're painting it on a board, like an actual birch panel or something, you're going to be fine because the wood's not going to bend. But a canvas does have some flexibility to it. What you don't want is for this stuff to crack. Okay, because if this cracks because it's not flexible, the DIY stuff, then it's going to look like crap. But in the next video that I'm going to be doing a demonstration on making a little artist trading card using a sub-product of modeling paste that is called Crackle Paste. It's actually looks like modeling paste, but when it dries, it actually cracks, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to be doing a little artist trading card in that lesson. So, another thing you can do with this, I probably could do it now. If I take a lot of the red, and you could use like spray paints as well. You take that, and the surface being primed is key. You can drip some paint and it'll go around. Okay. And then what you can do is take a paper towel, or even a baby wipe, and just blot some of the areas that have the modeling paste. And when this dries, it looks really cool. You can remove it right off the modeling paste pieces, and it creates a really dark ridge around there. I like that. And then you take your water. If your piece was primed with gesso, it would flow quite nicely. and you get quite the effect on that. That one doesn't want to move. Look at that. There we go. And let's see, what if I want to take a paper towel? I want to try to keep it flat. And what it's doing is it's just grabbing the, you can even use a Q-tip. That's, oh, I can't reach them. I've got Q-tips as well. You don't have to clean them all off. But you can leave some blank. Now, if this was gessoed, you wouldn't have that heavy line there because this is just where it's sucking right through the paper. But again, it's an experiment, so have fun with it. What I'd like to ask you guys is, if you've used modeling paste before, grab a stencil and just do a quick little piece like this for a background, like a background. And we'll use that for, let's say, an artist trading card challenge coming up. You just have to remind me to do that. But just do something like in a stencil, just take a picture and post it just so we can see the way that you use modeling paste. And if you use a DIY, maybe post a recipe so somebody who doesn't have access to modeling paste or lives in a remote area where they can't order stuff and have it delivered economically, because like I swear, who wants to pay $10 for a product and then pay $40 for shipping? I don't. Amazon is good for some of this stuff, but sometimes it's just, then there's customs and duty. So if you find that a DIY choice might be better for you, if somebody else has done that, maybe post a recipe. I would rather get you guys trying the technique with what you have and not do it at all because you don't have the right product. So at least try it. If it's a technique that you really, really like, then there's workarounds where you can actually get an art-based modeling paste in if you want to do some pieces for selling or giving away as gifts. All right, because you don't want to be using DIY stuff for selling stuff, because you don't know what will happen 20 years down the road. Alrighty. So if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link below to go to the Facebook page, because that's where I'm hanging out with everybody for the art stuff, and you can post pictures there. So the challenge is, if you've got modeling paste or DIY, take a stencil, do something, and post a picture like that. If you don't have modeling paste, Google some recipes on DIY modeling paste just to see what you can do. Even if you have plaster of Paris or drywall compound, use that. It's not flexible, but use that just to at least get the experience of applying it. Don't have a palette knife? Use an old credit card or an old bank card, an old driver's license. Our driver's license are plastic coated, so old driver's license. Packaging, you make some good use out of plastic packaging. Use that to scrape. So whatever you have, just do something so you get to experience what it's like working with that type of texture product. Alrighty, so I'm going to clean up and get ready for the next video lesson, which is basically using a texture product called Crackle Paste, where I want to intentionally crack the piece of art. So I look forward to seeing you in that video, and until then, stay inspired.